You're listening to Sage Against the Machine. My name is Joshua.
I'm Isaac.
And we come to you talking about politics and ideas, solutions, challenges, problems, all that stuff. In the most niche podcast in the world, where we talk about Indigenous, Native issues from the res, raw, ready, local.
Live.
Not really, but... Not really, it was recorded.
We were just talking about going live sometime. It was in my head.
Yeah, if you're interested in us, we do have a Twitch channel. We haven't used it yet, but if you are interested in something like that, hit us up. Hit us up on Instagram, Aboriginal Outlaws on all the feeds so far. We haven't yet broken our branding away from the Aboriginal Outlaws. We'll just keep right there.
Yeah, it's good to stay under the banner of the Outlaws. I mean, we're building our own thing out here, which is, I hope everybody realizes, this is a different sort of forum than the Outlaws. And I love those guys, all of you on that show, but I'm too serious, and I'm not funny. So what the fuck am I gonna do?
I'll be the funny one.
Yeah, I know. Like everybody's always telling me that. Like, I don't know. I'm not that funny.
So what's new? We've had a few developments since our last show. We did have our guest. I wouldn't like to still send another thank you out to Ron LaFrance for joining us here. That was very big of him to do that.
As would I. I really, from all of the feedback that we've gotten, and obviously there's been a little bit of a ruckus based on what happened on the show, but I reiterate, I am really thankful to Ron for coming on. He stepped into, not the easiest situation, a long-form discussion like that, but all respect to him for coming on, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about that show as we go forward here, but yeah, all thanks to Ron again.
Imagine if all politicians did podcasts. I've heard it on Joe Rogan when Bernie Sanders did it, and when Andrew Yang did it, and it's always interesting. Robert Kennedy Jr. He's gotten a little wild,
just a smidge.
I do think the long form gives you a chance to see the actual person,
exactly,
and not the soundbite. I don't know how anyone could take politics from sound bites. You learn nothing. You can't.
And I don't think there's any way that anyone could deny that. I mean, as I was getting feedback from a bunch of people in the community about the Ron show, that was a consistent theme that came up, was that there's, you really do get an insight into who the person truly is when they sit down with you for, how long is that? About an hour
90 minutes. Yeah.
So, an hour and a half, that gives you plenty of time to actually dig into things, and you really get an insight into who the person is, how they feel about the topics and how versed they are in them and what they do when they get pushback from, the positions that they've publicly stated. And this isn't exactly the easiest forum to go in, but, I think it benefits everybody to be able to see all that.
Yeah, and res politics is its own thing.
It definitely is.
Anything quite like it.
No, I mean, I think that, kind of at the base of everything, it's still politics, and you see, you see the similarities, I mean, we're talking about politicians, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that res politics is, it's different. I mean, you can walk down, you could stop at the mini mart and you'll see Ron or Bev or Mike, you'll just see those people out there. You regularly get to interact with them. How often does anybody up here ever meet Elise Stefanik?
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's just not something that's real. Yeah.
At the protest.
Yeah, I know, right? Are you going to get me on that one already? But I mean, it's, it's just a different thing. And, a show like you brought up Rogan and, but you look at, Tucker Carlson or Rogan, and no, I'm not endorsing all of those guys, but I do agree with some of what they say on some issues. But, even going on Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar, you give people that opportunity to really dig into something. And if there's, to be honest with you, if there's an issue with the way that these people are representing themselves, it's definitely going to come out in the wash, when you're speaking for more than an hour, so good, bad, ugly, and different. It's, it's definitely a different sort of it's definitely a different format for it, and I think everybody's better for that.
Wiggle your cable.
Upper one?
Yeah. Oh no, it's okay. It's my headphone cable.
Oh, okay.
My bad. You're on a roll.
Yeah, no. I just think that people really, I hope that people realize that, maybe I'm wrong, but I do think that longer format benefits everybody more, because you can't, like Josh said, you get into the sound bites. Mm-hmm. How much are you really learning from that?
Exactly. Nothing. And they can lie to you. They can lie to you, and you can't say anything about it because you're a reporter, you're a pretty face, and even if you do have a background in this stuff, there's no way you can dig into it.
It's just not possible, not in those sorts of environments. And I mean, to be honest, Ron mentioned I ask tough questions, and I do when I'm out there reporting, but I could never dig in the way that we did the last time we were here. It's just not possible. And I mean, you look at these national politicians, there's, they're never going to sit down with me and Josh. We're never going to get Elise Stefanik on the show, although that would be quite interesting.
Oh, yeah.
But I think two Mohawks getting into this kind of stuff with her would be a good show.
Imagine her driving up my bunky road.
Oh, my God.
She'd be so scared.
Her security would be like, why is there all this bush around here?
Ew, trees, pave it.
Are we over the border right
now? I
now?
hate nature.
Yeah. It's just, I mean.
Calling an Israeli airstrike. That's what I like. I saw her on there.
That was insane.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing, you saw the Rafa thing. I mean, the excuses that are coming out about that. Oh, it really wasn't within the safe zone. It was 150 feet away.
Yeah, it's a bomb.
Get the fuck out of here. It was
Jesus.
a 2,000-pound bomb. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, if Trump wasn't so rah war, I'd almost say he'd be better on it. But
Yeah.
he's not. So it's like a turd and a turd.
South Park, turd and douche sandwich, or no, douche and turd sandwich.
I don't know which one I hate more.
I can't stand either one of them. And I like.
Hey, look at the children on fire. That okay, granted, it's complicated. Don't give them weapons. How about that? How about I had to pay income tax this year. How about I don't want it to set children on fire? I don't care about your fight.
Yep.
I did study it. And that shit didn't start on October 7th.
No.
It started a long fucking time before that. But it's not thousands of years old either.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not.
And it's another creation of the British Empire.
Yeah. I mean, the British Mandate.
And European settlers.
Yeah. You gave me a little bit of reading and listening stuff to go at. And I picked up quite a bit, about the Urgan and Yabagoya or whatever.
Haudenosaunee, yeah, and that became the IDF.
Yeah, and Menachem Begin and all that stuff. It was things that I had not really heard about before, and looked into it, and it's a fucking shit show. And these people, I guess most of the people listening to this are going to be Mohawk as well and other natives. And the thing is that I don't think there's any denying that those of us who are indigenous here find common cause, common pain with the Palestinians. So, I just look at it that way, and it's what they're doing is insane to me. I mean, I don't see how you justify that in any way.
I've seen it painted too that the Israelis are the indigenous people, and then I had to look into that more. And
the Ashkenazi.
There's a little bit more to that than It might be so that their ancestors thousands of years ago from that region. What I'd never hear them say is, well, the Palestinians have the same DNA as those Ashkenazi Jewish people ethnically, and they all go back to the same Canaanite people that have been there all along. So it's kind of like, so in Ontario, you have this Ontario Métis nation trying to make a thing about themselves, who are, people with some kind of tenuous connection to native indigeneity in their past. Maybe they had one, great whatever. and then there's actual still living, breathing skins there.
Right.
And now we're beefing. Now we're beefing.
Yep.
And it's kind of this reminds, that's more what it's like.
It is, yeah. That's interesting. I hadn't thought of it, the way like with the Métis and all that, but they Métis, whatever. That's the thing is, you look into, because you get, if anybody is listening to this and you take a look, what do the people who are in leadership positions in Israel, what do they look like? They look like white people.
Yeah.
And that is because they are from Poland and Austria and Eastern Europe, that's just, those were people who converted. And I'm not saying that makes them less Jewish. That's not for me to decide. But it's just, like Josh said, you look back into it and yeah, they do have some distant relations to people from the Levant, but they're trying to confuse that with there are truly indigenous Jewish people who are from there. They are called Mizrahi and why am I forgetting?
I don't remember the rest. Sephardic. Sephardic were the Spanish ones, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And then you got like the Ethiopian Jews and stuff like that, which is a whole nother thing. But the point is that there are truly indigenous Jewish people. There are truly indigenous Palestinian people. And then you have the Ashkenazi, who largely are unrelated to them in as Josh said, indigeneity. They were brought, they came there from Europe. And we have another settler colonial thing.
And then with the assistance of the British Empire.
Absolutely.
Who ran it as a mandate. The other argument I keep hearing them saying is, there was never a country called Palestine. Country and land aren't the same thing.
No.
Country people aren't the same thing. Just because somebody, you could say the Mohawk Nation, we've heard legally the Mohawk Nation does not exist in New York State.
Right.
Us here, Mohawk Nation, would like to argue with that.
Exactly. You can't take away, and that's another thing, like, because I am one of those nerds who gets on Reddit and Twitter and has stupid online arguments with people, but you can't separate. There's another factor in there that people aren't considering. The European Jewish folks who went back to the Levant, you can't establish what I consider to be one of the most important things, and everybody who's listening to this who is native understands, it's those familial connections. Mm-hmm. So you come to the res, who's your mother, who's your father? Oh, that's your cousin. Oh, okay, that's your aunt. Those people did not have those connections there, that came from Europe. So it's, I always look at it as like this, there's a lineal descendants, and I just, the familial context there is very important to me. And I just, I don't know how they can claim that sort of thing. I mean, they converted from Romans.
Yeah. And on top of it, like, I could have seen them annexing part of Germany and carving that off to make their state. They didn't, because the rest of Europe probably would have killed them again. Yep. Because Europe's been killing those poor people for... That's the other part of the argument that really bugs me, and I had never thought about it before. It's like all these people those Middle Easterns have been fighting for thousands of years. No, they haven't. Europeans have been torturing European Jews for thousands of years. Yep. Huh? Why do these poor Arab people got to pay the bill?
Exactly. I mean, and that's that's not to say for anybody who's listening to this, do not take my words and believe that I have no empathy or sympathy for those Jewish people, because my co-host here is correct. The Jewish people in Europe were getting just brutalized all the time. And I understand why they want a homeland. I understand why they want their own state. I actually, whether or not this is popular, I want that as well, because I do think that the European Jewish people overall, should have a place to call their own where they don't have to worry about that kind of crap.
And it's called Florida.
Or Brooklyn.
Well, that's the thing, is there are places that doesn't have to be an ethno state. But as a Mohawk, I also want an ethno state.
Well, I mean, we kind of do.
Yeah, we kind of want an ethno state.
I mean, we have some different ideas of what our traditions are here. But yeah, I mean, overall, we, it's like that familial thing that I was just talking about. We all do tie back, through our lineage here.
And we have to get, one thing I do have to give it up to, like, that those peoples, they brought their language back. So Hebrew is a dead language, and yet here it is again.
Yep.
They speak Hebrew. All right.
Yep. And there, it's funny too, is that they, we're talking about that kind of stuff. It's one of the things that, kind of gets me about this is in the conversation of, this whole thing. And to be honest with you, most people do not have they don't even possess a sliver of the knowledge of the history of what's been going on there. But we it's always a good way to give, one of those rabid Israeli supporters the idea is like to say, well, okay, so if you're tied to land from 3,000 years ago because you can find one chromosome that was, that your DNA generated from the Levant, so you would support giving back all of our land to all the indigenous people.
The right wingers are quick. Even people like Stefanik are quick to go, yes, those are actually indigenous people and they should have their land back. Really? Mm-hmm. You feel that way, do you?
I think every Onkweonwe has something to say about that. Where's your rally behind us?
Our shit's not 3,000 years ago.
Nope. It's, a few hundred years ago and continually happening to this day. There was something else too that I kind of forgot about, and I'm doing it again. There was, and again, I find any of the hate towards Jewish people or whatever, it's condemnable. And I honestly believe that, especially here, if there was hate that was being spewed upon any Jewish person in front of us, we would step in and say, no, that's not right. And I'm not going to sit here and be quiet while you do that. Mm-hmm. What's been kind of tweaking me a little bit, though, is that in the United States, you have this segment of rabid Israeli supporters who claim that they are in imminent danger in the United States.
I've seen those.
It's
laughable.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
It really is.
It makes them look stupid. And I'm sure there can be isolated things of violence.
Sure.
There's been against Arab people as well.
Sure. That little boy in was it in Michigan? He got shot and killed.
Was it?
Remember? Yeah, I think it was in.
I can't keep on top of all the shot and killed in the U.S. There's just so many.
Hey, you know what? Michael Moore, shout out. You should,
No, I
do another one.
As someone who's wants to solve climate change, I'm against gun control.
Yeah. So am I.
Because just one American at a time.
You would think that people like Josh and I would be, you would be surprised if you heard all of our takes on things. You would think, well, he's a long-haired hippie and Isaac's a crazy left-wing, nut. No, I mean, yeah, on a lot of things, but I like guns. Mm-hmm. I like guns.
Yeah.
I don't want crazy people to have them, but I like guns.
Not the right kind of crazy.
Yep. Did you? Oh, you know who Ari Shafir is, right?
Oh, I went to his.
Really?
Oh yeah, I've been to his comedy. He's great. He's one of my heroes.
He is awesome. You've listened to his podcast, The Sewer or whatever.
The Skeptic Tank.
Yeah, but also the Skeptic Tank.
The Skeptic Tank's done. He does a travel show now though called.
Oh really?
We Be Trippin'.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, We Be Trippin's great.
Yeah,
it's about traveling.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, well, okay. In that context, that makes more sense now because I haven't seen him in a while online even. My feed keeps getting filled with I don't know how this keeps happening. You can tell that Twitter is like they're really trying to push the pro-Israel narrative because every time I open it up, my feed is filled with these people who are just like, and I don't like any of those posts, but they keep feeding it.
I've seen it on YouTube Shorts.
Yeah, happens.
And it shouldn't be in my feed because, I'm for the children, as Bill Burr said. Like, I can see the pictures. I can see the plan too. It's like, obviously, is it genocide? Maybe. Ethnic cleansing? Almost definitely.
For sure.
Like, I get it. There's millions of other Palestinians living in other countries.
Yep.
So is it genocide? I don't know. But it's for sure ethnic cleansing. And it's pretty mean too. Who are you going to fight? Like, What are these people you looking for? What are you doing?
I mean, they're right there in front of you, and you're still doing this.
Yeah.
The other thing is like they because I agree on that point is you get into these stupid, and to me, honestly, I really look at it truly as a semantical debate over genocide, ethnic cleansing. I've just begun to say mass murder because as far as I'm concerned, it is premeditated.
Absolutely.
So I'll just say mass murder, and I'm not going to get into the stupid definition of genocide.
I hate when they get this legal mumbo jumbo, and it's all a distraction.
It is.
Like, these are babies on fire.
You're trying to justify
babies
murdering babies on fire.
You're dropping buildings on people.
Exactly.
You have all the guns. You have all the power.
Yep.
And we're paying for it.
Yes.
You're not. We don't have healthcare. You do.
And white people listening to this, we do pay taxes.
Yeah. I mean, we try not to, but it says in the Constitution we don't have to.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah. I want to disabuse any of you who believe that we don't pay into the system. You are wrong, and we, in fact, do pay a lot in taxes.
Yeah, especially locally, because you know what?
Yes.
We're the only growing economy in the North Country.
Yep.
All the rest of you fuckers are.
Yep.
So.
Oh, yeah. So I wanted to get Ari. So I heard him on a show the other day, and you were talking with your friends the other day. If you get that reference, you're awesome. Give me some puppers. But yeah, he was on there, and it was it was with Howie Mandel and his daughter, apparently. I didn't know they had a podcast, but anyway. So Howie Mandel is trying to push this narrative that, Jewish people in the United States are in such danger. And Ari Shafir basically looks at him and you're a fucking idiot. Yeah. Like, that's not true. He said, and this is what made me laugh super hard. Ari, and this is one of those things, like, I guess if you're a Jewish person, you could say this, but you couldn't if you're not. Ari said, I travel all over the U.S. He said, and I got this Jewish face. And I lost it because, he
looks very stereotypical.
He really does. He really looks like a stereotypical Jewish person.
He went to yeshiva.
Really?
Oh yeah. He did his time in Israel. He lost his religion there and became a hippie.
Well, I mean, unless you are totally indoctrinated, my understanding is if you go to Israel and you go visit Gaza and the West Bank and such, even as a Jewish person, I've heard multiple accounts of this, and I'm not trying to tokenize anybody, but you do hear many accounts of Jewish people who went there, visited, and they're like, this is fucked up, I'm out.
Yeah.
As far as the spirituality and stuff goes of it, they say, some of them, still do practice that, and, and I can understand that. I respect that. But Ari shut that shit down pretty quick. And he was like, but you really think that you're not? And he was like, no, I'm not in fucking danger walking down the streets of Brooklyn. Like, that's fucking ridiculous. And I just, made me appreciate him all the more.
Yeah. Well, a friend of mine who's Jewish, her father was from Tel Aviv, who said, when you're raised in a way that's telling you the whole world's against you, and it kind of gets inside you. And so you're looking for threats, even when there's no threats there. I have a similar thing. I notice whenever the U.S. passes a law, Indians always think it's about us.
I know. Yeah.
But I don't think they're thinking about us at all.
No, they don't.
I don't think we even crossed their mind. I think if you went to New York City and said, hey, do you know there's Indians in New York? They'd be, of course, they're from India.
Yeah, honestly.
They have great food. They have curry and marsala.
Go to Bombay Grill.
Yeah.
You're saying, my friend, I'm giving you a shout out. But yeah, they free plug. But yeah, I mean, it's not like, this isn't a foreign thing. And then we do have this idea, I think, that, sometimes our own people need to remember they don't think about us unless we are a problem to them. They don't think about us, and for the large part. And it's another thing that I like to bring up with people when I'm getting into these kinds of debates about Israel is, this victim mentality that we were just talking about. How many? I think there's like 2 million Jewish people in the U.S. or something. I don't know.
There's a lot.
There's a lot, millions for sure.
More than there's us.
Yeah. Is Josh going to check it right now?
I'm going to.
Okay, good. Fact check me. But so, there's another thing on that. And what we all know as Mohawks, as Onkweonwe, is that the worst genocide in the world happened to Indigenous people. What is
6.3 million?
6.3? Oh, I was 3 times off. I was 300% off. Actually, is it 300%? Well, I was 3 times 3. That was my where I was off. But you know, so you tell people that, and then I'll make the point. So we had the worst genocide in the world committed against us. All of our land was taken. You know, all of the natural resources we had, they muddied up the water. I mean, not
we
muddied,
look like
they
this now.
Yeah, and we live like this now.
We look
I mean,
like
Jesus
this.
Christ, I can't even plant I can't plant vegetables in my soil at my house because I'm worried about the PCBs. Rightfully so. And if you live in Racket, I live in Roosevelt Town, but in Racket, it's even worse. You know, so along the banks of the, you know, up until that hot dumping zone. But so I'll tell people, you know, these things happen to us and we are living out the effects of that today. They're still trying to take our land. And we don't go about claiming victimhood to people out in public every day. We don't do that. So it does get a bit old for
And
Jewish
young people who
to,
do fucking stop it.
Yeah.
It's not cool.
It's not cool.
It doesn't
Like,
make you special.
we don't need to do that every day. We don't need to make, you know, yes, all that stuff did happen. We are living the after effects. But put it like this. Don't be the person who is perpetually just talking about your victimhood, because honestly, most people, average people, it's really only going to annoy the shit out of them. When you get into a topic where it's relevant and stuff, yes, bring it up. But that's one of the things that's been tweaking me about this narrative that Jewish people are in this grave danger is, you know, you want to talk about who is really in danger? Look at our women. Look at, you know, MMIW, MMIP. We have the highest rates of murder and, you know, all of it. All of the worst shit in the world. Rape, you know, it's all of this stuff that happens that's the worst that could happen to people happens to us in far greater numbers than any other ethnicity or race. But we don't go around saying that all the time. We don't go out claiming that. You know, that's not what we do. No, it's not.
But it's a reality we have to know about, especially when you have kids.
Yeah.
Like we've had a few incidents in the past couple of weeks where kids have gone missing, and fortunately, I think most of them got brought home.
Yeah, that's what I remember when I asked you the other day about that, and I'm glad that there, you know, like anytime any of that stuff happens to us, you know, and those missing kids that will go out across Indian country. And by the way, I don't really like that.
It's all on Facebook.
Yeah, but it's usually only the natives who are talking about it. You know,
like, there was no Amber Alert for those.
Fuck no. That was, you know, in California they got something called a feather alert.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wrote a story about, there was this instance, where this had to have been a few months back now, but there's this young native girl who went missing, and after California implemented this feather alert system, her family tried to get the law enforcement officials and the politicians, you know, to act in these agencies to put out a feather alert. They rejected them at least once. Yeah, I mean, it was like, oh, okay, so we have our own version of the Amber Alert in California, but we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's them laughing in our face.
Yeah, we should expect that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So feedback.
All right, we're going to dig into the Ron show.
Well, I've had positive, I filter my internet feed very well, which means I've not personally seen any negative.
Okay.
I've heard anecdotally in person many positive, including like, I'm so glad a leader so knowledgeable and will be that candid. So I know I have mates who are very sensitive when it comes to negative feedback, much more than I am.
Yeah, I don't know.
I will purposefully throw wrenches sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, I got I'll put it this way. The reviews for you and I were great. Ron, not so much. And, you know, we're talking about it now. We'll get into it a little more. I do understand why.
Yeah, I understand why. He also didn't ask us to remove any of it.
No, he didn't. And that, yes.
So-
Actually, you and I talked about that. I was talking about it with my wife. Ron never reached out and asked us to cut anything. I don't know, you know, I really don't want to speculate as to why that, you know, that didn't happen. But it didn't happen. So again, you know, I give Ron credit on that because he understands what this show is. You know, he even told all of you, he understood that walking into this show was, you know, potentially...
There was no upside.
There was no upside,
other than getting
really.
to know him better.
Exactly.
You know, other than getting to know his policies better.
I mean, he even said that he had people telling him, why are you going on that show? Mm-hmm. And by the way, you know we're never going to get another politician on
Those
here,
people
right?
are pussies, whoever told him that.
Yeah, they are.
And it's part of the problem.
They are.
If you told him that, you're part of the problem.
Exactly.
You're one of these wieners who's just nerfing our society.
Yep.
And if you don't like that, come on our show and talk about it.
Absolutely. Anybody who feels that fucking way, come on. We'll
you want a
talk
massage? Because, you know, I read the news. I read the news on the air, on the radio.
Yep.
And there's so much bullshit I have to wade through. I don't want to read that. I'm not a propagandist.
Yep.
Right? I don't want to read your fluff. Don't send it to me. Give me the facts. And I won't judge. I won't bias it my way either. I have enough, you know, of morals to not just, bias it right my way either.
Yep. I don't think that, and I know we're what, 10 shows in now? Something like that?
Something like that.
You know, and we're going to be doing this with more frequency as well, which, by the way, that was my
famous
fault.
last words.
No, I know. Yeah, but I actually have been the last,
Yeah.
3 weeks, 4 weeks. Any of you who are listening to this regularly, even if this is your first time, Josh and I we're free speech people. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, even under our own Guyana Lagoa, that's everybody has a voice. You know, I don't have a right to shut down anybody from speaking. I don't owe anybody a duty to throw them a life vest if they're fucking up too. Mm-hmm. You know, like if they're saying shit that I don't agree with, or, you know, if I can tell that Josh doesn't agree with it, or even, you know, I don't know what the video looked like from the last show, but, you know, when towards the end of the show, there was a couple of times where you and I both were like jaw dropped, like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And I really didn't know what to say. You know, I really didn't. How often do you find me at a loss for words? Never.
Yeah, I do. I would like us the road to get into the weeds on Longhouse stuff. Not today.
Yes.
That's a lengthy thing. And I'd like people here to go into that, because I think, you know, as Longhouse people seem to forget they are a minority within a minority.
Yep.
And, you know, for all the cries of, you know, we need to teach our people. Yeah, we need to teach our people. People do need to go looking for it too.
They do.
Like, we found stuff, you know, as light skinned as we are.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was what, I mean, yeah. I mean, look at everybody. If you're watching the video, my fucking beard is orange, you know, Swill, right?
Yeah.
He, when he got into his accident and I was on the phone with him on like a video phone thing, I could hear him talking to one of the other guys, and he said, "Where's Isaac?" And he was like, "I can hear him. I want to see that orange beard." And fucking ace. I mean, it was just classic. It was funny. But yeah, I mean, that's another thing too, is that people need to realize you can't expect the knowledge to go find you. Mm-hmm. You have to have the initiative, and you have to have the desire to really learn it if you want. Mm-hmm. And you've heard this, I've heard this many times. People will say, well, I went to the Longhouse and I felt unwelcome. Well, you know, a lot of times that's because you're uncomfortable. And do you expect to be coddled? That's not the way it works. When we're meeting for ceremony or an actual people's meeting to discuss issues that are going on, we are there for a purpose. And there's not really time for everybody to come up and grab you around the arms and hug you and tell you everything is going to be okay.
Welcome, lost child.
Right.
Welcome.
Exactly.
To Jurassic Park.
And I will also say, I have seen instances where people go into the Longhouse who've never been there, and they do get treated cold. I mean, that does happen.
I mean, you go to a different longhouse. I don't know how those people are over there. I know our longhouse is much larger, so it's really hard to see all the way across. So if everyone looks like they're glaring at you, it's because they're trying to figure out who you are, but they can't see that far. It's really hard. And so they're just like, who is that?
So you need binoculars at the Nation House?
I think so. Or we need some of those cool video screens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's how we should do Grand Council, too. No more of this driving to Syracuse.
Yeah. That would be a good idea. All zoom in.
Yeah, exactly. So then they can meet regularly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would be a good thing. I've never been to Grand Council before. Yeah. So that's kind of the way that I look at it. I don't nerf anything, as Josh said.
I saw the bone to pick with the pass to the longhouse, and I kind of get it. I got where he was coming from. I've even, it reminded me, geez, maybe I should throw some Faith Keepers a few bucks. I haven't cut no one's wood in a while. Maybe I should buy them some fucking Starbucks or something. Here you go. You work hard, you don't get paid for it.
Well, yes, I mean, and that was something that we had talked. It really was, because for those of you who don't know, we recorded the show a week before we published it, because normally what we do is Josh will go through and make sure everything's right, and then when we do a show, we normally like to let it go for a week before we drop a new one so that everybody has a chance to watch it. Which, by the way, I got really good feedback on the PJ show. Everybody loved it, and he taught people a lot of things. But so yeah, that show happened a week before it was published, and again, in that week, Ron could have reached out to either one of us and asked for things to be cut, and he didn't. And again, I respect that. But this isn't, there are things about the Longhouse that he brought up, and I do think that it deserves a much more in-depth conversation that we don't want to get into now. But I just want to tell everybody that there are things that Ron said that I agree with. We can get into it at another time on what it is. Now, I will say this. When he talked about Aaron Oaks, that I did not like, and it was his prerogative to say it. And again, I'm not going to tell another man or woman what they can say. I didn't like it, and I understand why there was such a pushback in the community on what Ron said to Aaron. And full transparency, I am friends with Aaron. I have learned many things from him. We are friends, but I also did not feel that it was my place to get into an argument with Ron while we were on this show.
I don't know the story well enough, so
yeah,
I don't know well enough to refute it. All I know is you can say, the tribal people can say whatever they want about Longhouse people, because Longhouse people don't vote, so it doesn't affect them one bit.
That's true. Yeah, I know that was.
He probably could have said "fuck all you people," because like 5 of them vote. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. I think there's a lot of closet voters out there.
So do I. Oh, absolutely.
They're the same ones who go to bingo and then bitch about talk about all the sins that Handsome Lake did.
I don't believe. I mean, you and I both go to the Longhouse. We go to different Longhouses. There are definitely people who vote who don't say so, because it's you can't say that in the Longhouse. Like, I come right out and tell everybody I vote in our elections. I do. I don't find it to be me stepping out of the circle. It's because I think that we have a duty to use our voice, in whatever forum it is on our territory. I think we have a duty to use our voice and let that be heard. Now, is Josh right that I would say 90% of Longhouse people don't vote? It might not be that high, but certainly
it's a large percentage.
Yeah, it's a large, well over 50%.
A lot of them are Canadian.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. True. They live on the northern side of the line.
Ooh.
Yeah. I do have some contention with those things, because I just don't feel like it's practical the way we go about things, and collectively we could use our power to swing a very big hammer.
Absolutely. And that's why, I mean, honestly, the people, like I said, I really loathe what Ron said about Aaron, and the Longhouse stuff in general what I think is there's a lot of people who do go to the Longhouse who don't vote. What I think that they're not considering is that if they did vote and they were upset about what Ron said, you could really change the outcome of the election, you know, and I get it. There's people who don't agree with it and all that. I'm just saying you really could alter the effect of the outcome, because there's a reason why the council, particularly the SRMT, seems to ignore the words of both the nation and my Longhouse.
Because they can.
Because they can. They don't need to listen to you.
There's nothing you can do about it. And they have an entire group of violent people called police that if you try to resist hard enough, they will go and put you in a cage.
I don't want to get into the police thing. You know I don't. We've had this discussion many times.
Yeah.
It's not,
but as the duly
they do
noted,
have,
as the duly elected governance, the police work for them and ultimately work for the state.
They do.
And they police, if you defend yourself from the armed men with cool little outfits on that look like stormtroopers, what's going to happen to you?
Yeah.
It's the basic libertarian argument, but it's an argument you can't really go against it.
And that's and my when you and I get into it about the cops, I never disagree with that part, because it's true. We don't have any authority over the police. We have a police commission. I mean, whatever. I don't see these commissions as having any real teeth.
No, they work for the system.
They work for the system. So my thing is that all I say when I disagree about the police thing is that I respect those guys. Some of them are my friends. And do I think that there are some cops on our forces who shouldn't be there? Yeah, I do. I've seen things that, kind of made me question whether or not this person is fit for it. But there's
like their waist size.
Well, I can't remember who it was now, but it really wasn't a big, well, I don't know. I guess it wasn't that big of they were rude to someone who was a community member who went there. It was when I worked at the court. And I was just like, if you're going to be that rude to that person, like, you probably shouldn't be doing this job. Having violent power is very corruptible. Yeah, and you can easily let it run away.
It takes a special person to not be corrupted.
Yeah, it does. So, I mean, look at I've heard this since I started when I came back home in 2003. I started kind of get involved in the politics in like 2005, 2006. And that was the message that I was given most of the time, is that once someone gets onto the council, it really changes them, and over these 20 years or so that I've been, active and paying attention to this stuff, it does seem like that's the case, and I could see how that could happen with someone who becomes a police officer as well. So it's just my whole thing is we do need people who will help keep order. Now, if it was the way that Josh and I envisioned this, it would have been done under our law, and it would have been
not trained by the same people who trained
exactly
those guys who knew how to put a chokehold on George Floyd so well he died.
Yep.
The point of that comment, for those of you who don't know, that was a bad chokehold. It doesn't take 9 minutes to put someone out. Watch the UFC. That's the right kind of chokehold.
Yeah, I mean, the guys who are trained in that, like Joe Rogan, he could put you out in 5 seconds if he really wanted to.
I have a friend. I have cops who are friends.
Well, you probably could.
And I have cops who are friends that said the white belts from our jiu-jitsu squad could knock the entire police force on their ass.
Oh, I'm sure. So, yeah, I mean, because that's on the last show you said you could kick the shit out of me and Ron, which is true. I mean, I was never, I've been in a lot of fights, but I'm not a great fighter, but I rolled around once with someone who was taking jiu-jitsu, and I figured like I'm way bigger than him, and all this. he got me into this thing where like he was holding onto my arm and I was stretched out long and I'm like, what the fuck? I can't get out of this. And then I realized if he really wanted to, he could have broke my arm
It's
at the elbow.
so frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's so frustrating.
I was so pissed, and we were drinking too, so I was even more angry.
You're so if you have a young person, put them in, jiu-jitsu, mixed martial arts, and boxing, like wrestling. Put them in any of those.
Yeah, I was just out there with the little one out there, and she was, getting her own training in there. But and so it is true, like, to kind of bring this back around, is that, they do have, the tribal council in particular, they do have really the authority over the tribal police, and that could be an issue. And another thing, I wanted to just say this real quick before I forget. When you brought up, where our police get trained, people probably don't know this. You've heard it said, but you don't know where it comes from. It's codified New York law that the SRMT tribal police they get their policing powers from the New York State Police. So, yeah, you can make an argument that they are police under the power of New York State.
Yeah, they're.
And I mean that it didn't used to be the case. My understanding was that it used to be they were deputized under the sheriffs, I believe, but that changed, and I don't remember exactly where the law
but
is.
All these guys get their same kind of training, and that's the issue.
Yep.
And I've listened to many podcasts on how they cover their own ass very well.
Absolutely.
I sent you one last night.
Yeah,
and it was terrifying.
I started falling asleep because I don't know why. I think I smoked too much weed, but I fell asleep and it was closing up, but I had gotten about halfway through. And if any of you are interested, look at the video for Boston Slide Cop, and I promise you're going to laugh. And then if you listen to this particular podcast,
let me look up the name of it. Boston Slide Cop's the name of the episode. The name of the podcast is it's behind the 16th minute with Jamie Loftus. Was what I was listening to.
And I'm telling you, that is quite the eye-opening ride. Even, and you it was funny. You warned me like about, it starts out fun and then it takes a turn. And it really does. You get about 10 minutes into that thing, and all of a sudden you're like, what the fuck? Yeah. I thought this was going to be something different.
In any authoritarian takeover and fascist situation, the cops are always on the side of the fascists.
Always.
Almost always. Most of the cops. Not everyone. People are individuals. But most of them.
You know what? It's interesting to think about that. And I kind of ponder this now and then. I'm curious to see what you think. I always figured the reason why that happens is because if you're a police officer, you do have, a lot of power just walking around. Right?
The power of life and death. So your word is believed above everybody else's automatically.
Right. So if somebody who comes around that, is really openly trying to be like a dictator or set up an autocratic society, I've always thought that the cops go along with that because they don't want to lose that power that they do have. I mean, that seems reasonable, right?
It's that, and probably where your bread is buttered.
Right, exactly. So that's kind of the way I always thought about it.
And it's a particular, mindset that goes there.
Yep.
There's particular psychological profiles that.
Did you?
And intelligence levels. When
my wife was, because she got her degree in psychology, she said that they don't make cops do those tests anymore.
No, I believe it.
I'm like, why? That is so fucked up. If you don't have to take a psych eval and all that, like that's, I don't think you should be deputizing anybody who hasn't gone through a large battery of tests.
And that goes in going back to our podcast and our feedback. Like I got good feedback as well, and I do think it takes a lot of balls for someone to do that, and everyone should do that. I don't know if I want to give everyone the platform to do that.
No, you know what? I do.
I'm not the expert on that. But a lot of their minutiae I get bored with. So
yeah, but I think,
does that make me a populist?
I am a populist.
Yeah,
but I see what you're saying, because I do like to get into the minutia of things, sometimes, but overall, I think that you and I are offering something that's just, it's not getting into, it's not wonky necessarily. It's really just two guys from the res who know a little bit of stuff and can form questions and pushback on things that we don't necessarily think are correct, or that people in the community have told us, if I'd like to know about this or whatever. That's something that you and I are both capable of doing. I don't claim to be a genius, but I'm quick enough to be able to do that. And I honestly believe that we have a responsibility to do that with this platform.
Mm-hmm. And so the other part, I think I cornered him well on jurisdiction.
You sure did.
And how I do think that the way I read the Judge Khan decision blows their jurisdiction out of the water because they don't have jurisdiction. And some people in the res took it upon themselves to test that theory. Well, how'd it go?
Okay. Why, you want to talk about that now? I'll talk
We're
about
50 minutes in, so.
Might as well do it because we got to close.
Don't incriminate yourself.
Yeah, that's the thing is, the charges aren't, they're not felonies, but so for those of you who don't know, there was a gathering on Barnhart Island, and there was some sort of action going on. And now, what ended up happening,
I wasn't invited, by the way, so fuck you guys.
Actually, nobody was invited from my understanding, because, I had no idea what was going on. I went out there, doing my job. And
as a newspaper reporter,
as a reporter, which we might end up having to cut this out, but no, for real, because I'm trying not to, I don't, but the long and short of it is that 8 of us were arrested for trespass and some other charges. And it kind of goes back to what, you look at this, it relates back to the podcast where Ron was on. It's that, on that show, most of the discussion was around land claims. And even when you see the press release that was put out from the tribe and what they purport to be all, they purport that it comes from the tribe, MCA, and the Mohawk Nation Council of Chiefs. And I say purport because, I haven't heard officially on that. But, and I'm not saying that they didn't. I'm just saying I have not heard.
I know that several of the clan mothers and adult chiefs had no idea. Therefore, whatever press release was said was not sanctioned and authorized. Therefore, was not true. And, I won't point fingers. I know how PR people are.
Yeah.
I know how the writers are. They will just make assumptions because they don't know either.
Hey, watch it, buddy. I'm a writer.
Yeah. You're not a PR guy.
Yeah, that's right.
You're not the one who makes those really long words I have to cut out of news releases because they're bullshit.
And people need to think about that too when it comes to communications and things like that. Those people work for the council. So, the words that are coming out of there are going to be getting approved by the council.
And some of us know things.
Yes.
Therefore, I had the wherewithal to fact check that before.
You were telling me some things to, maybe look out for before all of this went on. Well, with the press release. But it's, so the thing is that the way that and I will get into detail on my ordeal once I have a better grasp of what I can talk about or not without fucking things up for other people or me, potentially. Because honestly, I know I'm not trying to make myself sound like a fucking hero here, but I do think about everybody else first, when it comes to something like this. Now, I've always been taught from the older guys at the Longhouse when I first started going, it's your family first, and that's who I always think of. But when it comes to a situation like this, a political situation, I'm going to think about the others who were arrested before I think about myself. And so, this relates back to what Ron was talking about, because it's hard to say that how can you trespass on your own land? And it's, and that's something, and it really would have been nice for, I think it's par for the course though. I mean, it would have been nice for the council to come out and say, these people weren't trespassing, but that wasn't going to happen. And as much as this might sound like sour grapes, I think everybody from Akwesasne and everywhere who's listening to this, they should ask the council why they were disavowing everyone who got arrested that day. I mean, really, ask that question.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't sound like any sort of the talk that they go through about unity and all this shit. Well, if it's supposed to be about unity, why would you throw these people under the bus? It's...
Yeah, I agree with that because, again, according to that document, that is our land. Therefore, we can go there. So, if I want to swim after 7, that forest ranger can't kick me out of there.
Yeah. I mean,
if I drown, that's not on you, bud.
Yeah, exactly.
If I drown in that river,
you did. I mean,
you can see. Told you dumb Indian.
Well, that was like, that's the way they kind of. It seems to me, obviously, I believe that the outside they look at us that way. Most of the time, where it becomes very disappointing is when it's your own people doing it to you. I mean, and it's emblematic of the problems overall. I mean, it's that's where you see the divergence between, a majority of the community and what I like to refer to as the tribal elite bubble. I think you can see the disparity there very clearly because, I haven't come across anybody from the community who's not, doesn't run in those circles of people close to tribal council or people in the higher positions at the tribe. I haven't come across one person who wasn't supportive of, and standing behind us, people who are going to go to court when we all have to appear, they're...
Well, I think even the apathetic Mohawk who doesn't care one way thinks, oh, hey, that's cool.
Yeah, and
they always think it's cool when we take our land back.
Yeah.
And they always know in their head, that is ours, and how dare you?
I mean, I don't know how anybody could look at it any other way. I mean, I honestly, I think you and I talked about this, though. I do believe, and I can acknowledge this, I don't know if I said anything about the bubble to Ron that he's in.
I think you both said each other were in bubbles, and I think you're both right.
And I do agree with Ron on that. I do think that because the people that I spend the majority of my time with that is not my family or at work are people who are, they're activist minded. They actually are out there doing work to, fight back against, land claim settlement and various other things. So I do think that I am in a bubble in that way.
Yeah. It is easy to do. As when I, for years I worked at the traveling college and I was in a tradition bubble where I didn't realize that the stuff we talked about every single day is unknown to people just down the road who could just go there and come talk about weirdo stuff with us too, about the history and, traditions. So you kind of get in that bubble and you forget.
Yep.
You forget till you get out there. And, one of the good things about working in schools and working and having 18 different jobs and
yeah,
being a stand-up comedian and all of that is as I get out of those bubbles and get to hear what other people think.
And that's where, because even in my work, a lot of the times, even the independent consulting, writing, researching stuff that I get hired to do, those are usually things that, the people who hire me to do that are typically people who are fighting against the system itself. So, even on that aspect, it's, I do acknowledge that I am in a bubble when it comes to that stuff. The issue is I didn't realize it until you kind of pointed that out to me more. But at least I'll give myself credit that I can admit that, I acknowledge it and I need to take a step back sometimes and think about it from, you're the general person on the res, like what they, just take a step back from that and, analyze that as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's, it happens. I've had it. I remember years ago, Mohawk Council, the other government put in here by white people, the even more egregiously foreign government that we have. I think is more egregious than tribal council. The whole Indian Act part.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well,
the whole Indian Act government.
That was certainly worse.
It's more egregious.
It is.
They killed people.
Yeah.
They took our chiefs and put them in jail.
Yeah.
We know those people because we're like their grandkids.
Yep.
It wasn't that long ago.
And they're celebrated still.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. So in any case, I went to one of their planning meetings, and they have their smart board, and the girl, the young girl that's kind of my age, is trying to be all positive. And so, what are our 5-year plan? Or what are our plans? And I put dissolve the elective councils, and I thought that was so smart. And the room was silent.
Really?
Yeah. Well, then I heard an old woman who's one of the evil old ladies that actually run the res.
Okay.
There's a cabal of evil old Catholic ladies who actually run the res. And yeah, there is. It's true.
I never thought of, I never even examined that idea before.
If you look at the members of all the boards of directors around here, because we do like our boards and our nonprofits.
Our boards and commissions.
You're going to find similar names.
Okay.
The evil old lady cabal of they're all Catholic too.
Okay.
So anyway, she said, well, who would take care of us? And that's where I would realize, I think differently than this particular group of people.
That makes sense.
It's a small sample size, but I'm pretty sure there's that strain runs very strong through a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think it runs stronger on the Canadian side. I think on the American side, you have more of that bootstrap kind of mentality.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why.
Go to work and, like do your thing a little more. I don't know if I want to say fight.
Entrepreneurial?
Yes, for certain. Yes, I mean, all of this stuff, it's just, I kind of pushed to do this one with just Josh and I, and we do plan on having more guests on.
If they'll come on. If they'll come on.
Yeah, I know. That's like, well, I wasn't joking about that. Like, I don't think there's any shot we could ever get anyone from one of the councils, either MCA.
They're too filtered. They're too filtered.
There's no way any of them would ever come on again. And that's why I do give Ron credit. See, because that's the thing. Ron knew what he was getting into.
If I was going to elect a guy, it'd be an unfiltered guy.
Yeah.
That's who I would vote for.
That's exactly why I think you and I both had that idea when we were running.
I appreciate Trump more than Biden for that.
Actually,
even though I don't agree with his policies.
I do too. Yeah. I don't like his policies.
Yeah.
I think the man is loathsome.
I think he's a fascist.
Yeah. But I can respect.
I think Biden is also a fascist. He just pretends he's not.
Well, they always, the establishment Democrats always portray themselves as, these doves, and they're so sweet and empathetic.
Beware the white liberal, said Malcolm X.
Yeah. And that's true. That really is true. Because when they say liberal, they don't mean actual progressivism. That's not what they mean. No. They just mean people who have the appearance of caring more about people of color or gay people or whatever. When it comes down to what really fucks everybody over, which is economics, they're all the same. Mm-hmm. They are all the same. But I do have an appreciation for people who will let it flow, and who will actually get into it and speak candidly. Now, again, do I agree with everything Ron said? No. Were there things that he said I agree with? Yes. And I will stand by my thing. What he said about Aaron was terrible. It was wrong. If you're going to do that, I don't think bringing it up out of nowhere here was correct. And, I don't know if you saw it, but he did apologize.
I don't. Like I said, my Facebook feed is very filtered, and I don't see.
My view on that, and I will give my opinion on this. I do think if you were truly sorry as a person, someone would go directly to that person who they harmed and go,
maybe
right
he did.
there.
I don't know.
Maybe he did, but and that's just the way I do it. I mean, I don't really think that. Like I said, I don't like it, and it's not just because Aaron is my friend. I do think that it was a terrible It was a terrible way to talk about somebody. You know, it's like, but again, it was, in a way, it was kind of good for us. I'm sure that we're getting more views than we normally do, more views and listens, and everybody on the res is talking about Sage Against the Machine.
Jeez, we should make some stickers and
I know, right? Now we're gonna, I know,
graffiti them everywhere.
that's what. See this? This is, I like this soda. So it's no sugar diet, Sunkist. If you want to.
That's where you get your cancer from.
Hey, I can do, I know, right? I can do the, if I wasn't so fat, maybe I could ride my skateboard. Maybe I could ride a skateboard. You know how the guy with the.
We should go down a slide.
You guys, I would get stuck in that slide.
We'd have to call the fire department to cut you out.
And I'd have you and Swill and Gage all standing over there laughing at me while I'm stuck in the fucking slide. But yeah, I mean, it would be an interesting one.
So this is a meandering follow-up to our, we've solved the Middle East crisis. And
Yes.
We've almost mentioned how you got arrested.
I promise
we
you
barely
people,
mentioned why.
we're gonna get into it. Believe me. Once I know that I won't fuck things up for anybody else, I will talk about it and I will write about it. It's just I got to see how this plays out a little more.
We might be live from Bear Hill Correctional Facility.
Hey, man. If it happens, it happens. I'll be a straight shooter.
He'll be like, "Oh man, you're right. I hate cops too."
Yeah, I know, right? Actually, you know what? They were very nice to me.
Yeah.
They even let me smoke a cigarette.
I mean, if you wanted to do the whole protester thing, you sit down and you make them carry you. You don't resist them.
Could you imagine?
You don't resist them. You just don't help them. It's not resisting arrest to my legs don't feel good. Just that's one of those. They might throw more charges or kick you in the head.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know how. It would be kind of funny to do that though, in a way, because how many of them would it take to carry me? Probably 4.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, last time I weighed myself, I was 383. So it would. I don't think you and William could carry me on your own. You know what I mean? I really don't. If I went fully limp.
Yeah. So if you keel over in here, I'm gonna have to get my chainsaw.
Yeah. Get a forklift and
Can't lift me. Not all together. We can't.
Nope. Get a forklift and get some ratchet straps. Hook me up.
No, we're just gonna have to do the whole diet exercise.
Yeah.
Smoking thing.
Yeah. Boo.
We need our warriors to be able to run to the end of the road.
You know what? Did you ever read that thing that Judge George wrote about, like when he was talking about how, you know, our people are out of shape and stuff like that, and the warriors are supposed to be in shape? He's not wrong.
I didn't read it, but
He's not
we're
wrong.
supposed to look like a Louis Hall painting.
Well, I mean, okay, but I'm just saying, like overall.
You know, we're supposed to be jacked with a big mohawk and blue eyes.
Yeah, but I mean it is true. Like it's not a good thing to be as fat as I am, for sure. You know, I could probably help
For your health. For
my health. But if I also had to actually like get into a fight right now, I'd be fucked.
They would take you less than 9 minutes for the cops to.
The
cops choke you into death.
Done.
Take like 3 minutes.
Hey, maybe that's why I didn't fight them when they were putting the cuffs on me, because I knew I couldn't do it for more than 3 seconds.
All right. You're listening to Sage Against the Machine. Join us maybe in a week.
Yeah.
And we'll come up with some more of our things.
Yep.
I think we covered it all. We did cover. God, I kind of want to flip around the order we went in.
I know, right?
We went on tangents about the Middle East because look, the land issue is important, but babies on fire is a little more important at the moment.
And we haven't really talked about that all that much, you know. So I kind of, you know, well, I mean, we've had guests on the last few shows, so you know, it was something that I think I've been wanting to talk about it. I know you have. We've talked about it a lot.
There's also a genocide in Sudan.
Yes.
That I know a lot less about.
Yeah, me too.
It seems to be a civil war type thing.
Yep. There's still a bunch of shit going on in China too.
But we're not paying for that one.
No, well, in the Sudan we do give aid. Or wait, no, I'm thinking
not the U.S., but
the U.S.
What would be, Bill?
Well, you're a libertarian. If it was up to you, you wouldn't give aid to anybody.
That's true.
I probably wouldn't.
There was so much less war.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be for charity institutions to go in there and give aid. Multiple charity institutions who compete with each other for finances and
Yep.
show their work.
Yeah, there are a lot of, you and I have talked about this a bunch of times. There's a lot of libertarian principles that I really fully agree with. It's just me. I want a true social welfare backdrop just in case people fall off. But, and we talked about Dave Smith. Anybody out here, you should listen to Dave Smith too. He's really good.
Yeah, he's good.
He's really good.
Look, I'd meet you halfway. I would trade like 3 aircraft carriers for free medicine for everybody.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Is there really a need for like 5 or 6 carrier groups?
No. No.
Is there really? Come on now. Can we just have half the nukes and, not
And have everybody
not have homeless encampments?
exactly. Like let's build some a bunch of affordable housing and
Big
all
concrete blocks where they can
Yeah.
become.
Dude, I don't know, but honestly, I wouldn't care if I lived in a house that was made of concrete blocks if it was sturdy and it was warm and I wouldn't care.
That's right.
Why would I care if it I don't need the Taj Mahal.
We just don't want to recreate the project blocks.
Yeah.
That didn't work out.
Yeah, but there's
Can't concentrate
We should
on
probably have PJ back on to talk about that because I
All
bet you he
right.
knows a lot about that one.
So stay tuned for more episodes of Sage Against the Machine. Make sure you check out the Aboriginal Outlaws podcast and look at our Instagrams and our social media because we do have live dates coming up. And I will be at Yuck Yucks on June 26th.
I will be at court on June 11th. Messina Town Court.
Accept his long distance calls from the Bear Hill Correctional Facility.
Please send me money for some Kit Kats.
I'm Joshua.
I'm Isaac.
All right, I'll give you